but some action needs to be made. We've dealt with this person for 2 years.
So you're asking that we send out this first notice,
Yes,
and the city has never sent these people notice
not that
before?
I'm aware
The
of.
parents are allowing the daughter to keep her animals there, that the parents are fully responsible for what happens at the corral. And if Kevin is there a reason to send out a first notice, in your opinion?
Well, my feeling would be
To wait?
to wait until after let the legal process take its course and see what happens there.
What's the anticipated time frame on the legal process?
One of the trials is scheduled for the 16th of July, if I
No.
remember correctly.
Isn't it the 3rd?
Oh, is it the 3rd?
It's the 3rd.
It's coming up real soon.
July
The-
3rd.
The other one, that process has just begun, so that person has not even gone in for an arraignment yet, given the opportunity to plead guilty or not.
So if the person's found guilty, that's reason to terminate the lease anyway.
I think we have a catch-22 because she is not on the lease.
Oh, the daughter.
She is not on the lease. The parents would have to decide whether they wanted to continue to keep the corral or to sell the corral. But as lessees, with what we've had to go through for the last 2 years, we do not want this individual, if she is found guilty, to continue to enjoy the corrals and torment people.
I'd like to make
Which she has.
table this until the first meeting in July.
She's very elusive.
Well, the second issue will not happen that soon. Will not go through.
One issue seems like it would be sufficient cause by itself.
I would think so. The one issue would be sufficient cause. I don't, the second one wouldn't be relevant.
The aggravated.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Yes, one bit of discussion for you, Kevin, I think. I would presume that if the parents are leasing this property from the city, that they're responsible for whatever happens at that site.
Yes.
I don't know that they would be responsible for everything that happens there. Certainly anything reasonable and foreseeable they would be responsible for. But for example, if you own, say, your home, somebody breaks into your home and does something, you're not responsible for what they do.
True.
So there are some limitations there. And because this person is an adult, no longer a minor, there are some separations there.
The person who's leasing the corral is allowing this young adult to use it. So who would we notice?
Well, obviously,
And that's
our only
breaking the lease
contractual
again.
agreement is with the leaseholder.
Right.
Lessee.
Right. And it would be because they are allowing unacceptable behavior. Thank you.
Is there anybody with the Corral Group Association or whatever association I guess would like to say anything on this?
Not at this time.
Okay. Well, maybe next one. Okay.
So would we make a motion then to go on the agenda for next?
No, we're
If
going to
it's
table
being
it.
tabled, it'll automatically go.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Next. What's that? No, you haven't voted. You do
The
have a
motion is to table.
And a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you for
You're on
your
the
time.
next one, then we'll see what we can get.
Thank you.
Okay, number 3, council member, city attorney Gray, discussion possible action approval of resolution 2013-04, resolution to exchange a real property between the city of Dealing and the railroad and Mike Horner.
I guess now you are using or you're wearing your city council hat rather than the board's trustee hat. Don't know that the discussion is easy.
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 4, council members, for discussion possible action consideration of White Pine County Commissioner's request that the city meeting pay $19,000 additional protection under the proposed fiscal year 2014 under the local agreement for police, fire, and animal control. have anybody from the county that wants to say anything? Oh, there she is.
Thank you very much again for the record. I'm Elizabeth Francis, and I'm the Finance Director with White Plains County. And I just wanted to bring you a little bit of background information on this because I know some of you are new to the council now. And the request for the increase of $19,000 comes as a result of years of either decreased fees that we've received from the city or holding them stable. And so if you look at our patrol costs starting in fiscal year 2010, they were about $1.7 million. And this is just for the patrol portion of the county sheriff's office. And then in 2008, they went up to about 1.8 million. Or I'm sorry, in 2011, they went up to 1.8 million. In 2012, they're at about 1.9 million. In 2013, they were still at 1.9 million. And the 2014 budget is over $2 million now. The city contribution during that time was $658,000 back in 2010, and then it dropped down to $545,000, or almost $546,000 in 2011, 2012, and 2013. So in light of the escalated costs, and we know that everybody is experiencing those, the county is requesting that the city go ahead and contribute an additional $19,000 towards the cost of the county sheriff providing city police protection to the contract for the FY14 fiscal year. And so I just wanted to offer that as background information because knowing that I had emailed back and forth with the city clerk on this prior to the new city council members coming on board, and not seeing this information provided to you in your packet, I just wanted to provide that verbally to you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have related to that.
Any questions?
So the total for this upcoming year would be how much, Elizabeth?
Well, the total for this coming year then would be $564,939, which we offset with the contribution we make back to the city for the fire protection and animal control.
Thank you.
Well, I know we tabled this at the last meeting so that the new councilman could come to me and give any information we needed. I didn't see anything. I think there needs to possibly be consideration because our costs also increased on the fire and animal control. So I think it still needs to be looked into before a decision is made.
So our RA went up too, not just hers. And you understand that?
Oh, absolutely. I do understand that. And this is compared to the overall budgets for the fire and the animal control. The county sheriff is much bigger. That's why we weren't asking for a big increase, but to go ahead and proportionally offset that as we could increase the amount being asked for and offset it by the amounts we get back to the city then. So that's why the $19,000 was a conservative number.
What would be the impact if that money were not paid? What services would we anticipate losing as a result?
The county has an obligation to provide services to the city under the contract, and I don't believe that the county would anticipate cutting back any of those services because we have an obligation to provide the citizens with protection under this contract. So we won't cut back services. We're just asking that you go ahead and recognize that we've had some increases over the past several years, and we have not come to the city council requesting any increases at all, and just sort of requesting that you look at that.
Jeanette, do you have any ballpark figure of what the increase to us has been to provide those services we give to the county? I mean, would it come close to $19,000 just out of a wild guess?
You know, I don't, without one of my figures in front of me, I don't want to, I'm not going to guess.
That would be tough to figure out. And also in the last year, I'm guessing last year, the county's also asked the city to basically take over first call of ambulance and fire to county sewer. So our costs actually have increased, even though it's hard to split,
In the down.
it's in the down. I don't feel that, I think our agreement we had before should stay the same.
So you guys all budgeted was the,
I would think that the appropriate thing would be to put it in the budgetary request next year.
Well, this did come up quite some time ago, and it's just been going back and forth. So I can go ahead and take that back to the county commissioner if that's what the city council wishes.
Well, it seems like it should be negotiated at the time we negotiate it, and not change it after, or am I wrong, so it's negotiated, or changing.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
This was all negotiated already. Now the county's coming after the negotiations and asking for an increase.
No, there's no negotiation.
There is no negotiation.
There was no
I don't know
negotiation.
that
I had
they-
come back, I believe it was back either in February or March, requesting an increase at the request of the county commissioners. And I've kind of been going back and forth. I think my first contact was with the city treasurer, and then the city clerk indicated that I had gone to the wrong person, which I apologize for, and that I should have gone through the city clerk. And we had gone back and forth several times on emails, and so here we are today. But this did start several months back, so it wasn't like I'm coming here.
I don't think, I know the city has never sat down and negotiated with the county.
Not this year.
Not this year, that's
Yeah,
correct.
we did in private and past, I know we did the year before because I was on that committee and we did not want to do this year and we didn't ever negotiate. So,
we just released status quo basically for the last couple of years.
When the negotiations usually, when did it take place 2 years ago? When did we actually sit down?
Well, it was before our budget because, so I'm guessing without looking at my notes, probably February or March. It was before we started our preliminary budget.
We start the final all of that on April, May.
Right. And I believe that's when my first contact came in, was in February time.
I know $19,000 is not a whole lot for the county when you consider how much the county gets, but then the county spends a lot of money too, I understand that. But
I think $19,000 is a lot of money to anyone, sir.
Yeah, well, no, you know what I'm saying. I'm saying compared to the city budget, county budget, is what I'm referring to. That's a lot of money to have income. When you look at the county budget, the overall income of taxes and things like that, is a lot more than what the city is. So $19,000 for us, especially what happened, we've already started budgeting in place. That's a hit on it.
I would move that we respectfully decline the county's request.
Is that your motion?
It's your motion to make a motion in the positive, so a motion to approve.
We don't need to have a more.
Can die for a lack of a motion, or can die for a lack of a second, it can die because nobody makes a motion, but the motion should be always in the positive.
Okay. So I can make a motion? Or die because of a motion? Take that back. No.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, number 5, Councilman Settlestone, discussion possible action in consideration of City of Ely's animal control policies related to the length of time between capture and putting animals down, using volunteers to help adopt out dogs and cats, and posting the pictures of animals taken by animal control to eliminate citizens going to the animal control building. And I'm going to let we can discuss it here, and I'm going to let anybody with this, if they want to comment.
I met with Mike and Brenda and Tara Lynn, and we come up with a little bit of a plan. Extend the put down date by 10 days,
2 10 days.
2 10 days, whether they're collared or uncollared. And before the 10 days is up, Linda and Tara Lynn would, in that time, try to find foster families. And where's Alice? Now she offered, and
We'd take pictures and then.
the whole idea is to give the dog a longer time to be adopted out. Mike agreed that, is Todd done here?
He wasn't back.
No, that Todd, when he picks up an animal, would take a picture of the animal and leave the SD card at City Hall, where Tara Lynn, that's opening up a new website, would put that animal on the website to take, for adoption. Right?
So you're extending the 2 10 days or?
Yeah, just go 10 days across the board. So
Right.
Because right now it's like only
3
3
to 5.
3 to 5.
Go 10 days across the board.
If the animals have a policy tag on them, do you call the owner from the tag number?
We try to, yes.
Also,
That's easy. You can go in there on their license and get their numbers and information.
somebody had mentioned about, not being able to go to the animal control. What we thought about was setting up a time when there is animals there for viewing. I don't remember what time we
Well,
set
the
up.
morning,
In the
Tom goes
morning.
down and cleans every morning from roughly 7 to 9, and then, or a little later than that.
Right,
probably.
so that the animal control officer wouldn't have to
Make special trips out.
making trips down to the animal control. So if there's animals down there, he'd show them from, what do we say, 9 to 10?
It's something like that. It was like, I think it was 8 to 10. And then
8
it was
to
like
10.
1 to 2 or something like that.
Right. And try to get them all adopted out.
Easy stuff.
Okay.
So we're setting some visiting hours.
Visiting hours. We wanted to prevent somebody calling
It's
on
just
all times of the day to
Yeah.
visit.
It's not a joke, this is actually formalizing. There'd be a set time. that
Right.
The public would be able.
Is there going to need to be an amendment to the city code that prohibits keeping more than 2 animals in property in order to?
I think we already have that on there as far as
Is that part of that?
fostering the animals.
That was done, what, 2 years ago we decided
Yeah,
to do it?
where they can keep an animal for up to 90 days.
For 60 days.
Or 60 days,
Alice, stand up.
they can have a third animal.
Is there a maximum to the number of animals?
The zoo, I don't know if the city has been aware of this, but the zoo will pay to have any dog in the pound that people want neutered. This is what Brenda has told me.
Not any longer since we found out about, but you're right, Alice. We just recently found out that the city is obligated through your city ordinances to have the animal, make sure that the animal it has its shots and that it's spayed and neutered, and you haven't been doing that. So about a year ago, the zoo decided to do that. We didn't know about the ordinance. So we took it on because we considered these animals a stray, and we wanted them to, we fostered them, got the foster homes, got them spayed and neutered and the shots, and then we found out that there was a law in the book. So we, would like you to make sure that happens, and that was part of the
Right,
discussion.
part of that discussion was to make sure that that happens, because Todd would charge the family that's adopting the pet, the spay and neuter cost, give the person a certificate to go to the vet, and then the vet would bill the city, so that we know that that's being done. That way, if a person doesn't do it, they leave the town or state, the animal control keeps the money. That would put the animal control in charge of spaying and neutering, and that would make, guarantee that it was done.
And there has to be follow-up on that. After our meeting, I was
Yeah, we have
thinking,
to check with the vets and see.
right, and I was thinking more about it, and rather than pay, add another thing to animal control for the person, because it's mandated, that they go to the vet of their choice, we have two, and they find out what the actual charge is going to be, because Todd wouldn't know that, the person adopting the animal wouldn't know that, so that's delaying the process more. So they would do just like anybody would do, is go to the vet, set up an appointment, have the animal spayed or neutered, their shots, and then within a certain time frame, 30 days I think is fair, and then they would report to Todd that has been done, and then Todd could then keep an electronic record of some sort when their time is up, the 30 days, and they haven't complied, then he can.
Well, I'd rather the city have the money in advance than Todd running around chasing it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they can give us a price on what it costs for spaying.
Yeah, and you have to talk with him, yeah.
I don't know how they do it. I'm sure it's by size of the dog.
It is.
So, if it's a small, medium, or large dog, you can charge for whatever it's going to cost. Anyway, if the person doesn't follow the rules, you got the money.
Yeah. But the purpose of it is to get it done. I mean, it's not just about the money, it's about, making sure the animal
Usually
stays.
money makes people.
I know, but I know.
They're going to pay to have it done.
Yeah, but the follow-up is important, that they have to do it.
Well, we'd have a follow-up by the bill coming from the vet, so that would have a record that it was done.
Yeah.
And then, what if they don't do it, we repossess their animal?
Yep.
I guess you pretty much
have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
Say, well, if you're not gonna take care of this, then give back the dog, and we'll give it to somebody who will do it.
That's pretty much how it has to be.
That's what we.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in the ordinance that they have to do it, then they have to do it.
We're talking about some cats anyways.
I mean, that's something we have to discuss.
Have you worked out any ideas of the extra hour thing, what that lost for the control?
No, I don't. We'd have to talk to the vets and stuff.
The what was that?
How much it would cost?
Yeah, I think that's something we'd have to work out.
Well, no, that's something you have to work out with the vets.
Yeah. I don't know what
We're
they're
talking about the added cost for housing the animal for up to 10 days.
You're gonna have the full, like Marty said, visiting hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
Well, visiting hours, Todd's usually there at that
Yeah,
time.
he's there.
That's fine.
Pretty much.
But if we're fostering, getting people to foster the animal, then the people who are fostering would be,
Paying for the.
Covering our costs.
they would be covering all those costs, but as their donation to the cause, but they would be able to show the animal to whoever was interested in actually adopting it at whatever their convenience is, so the visiting hours is only for their account.
Yeah. See, this is a little bit more complicated. We have to work out some things on this, for sure.
What opened
Yeah,
this
I have a
up to?
question for Mike too. Is Todd full-time animal control?
Yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, he's got other jobs. His job description states that he helps in other areas also.
Okay, because I don't see all this happening, laying all this on Todd, because I do see him
You're
driving
exactly right.
other trucks around.
Yeah.
And my next question is, we can sit here and make policy, but if it's not enforced, it doesn't mean anything. Like, what percent of the animals, let's just stick with dogs, do you think are actually licensed by the city in the city? A percent?
Yeah. Very little.
That's what I thought. I'm thinking 5%, 10%. And my question is, if it costs $10 a year to license a neutered or spayed animal, and it costs $20 per year to license one that's not spayed or neutered, and I've talked to several friends of mine, and I would toss this out to anybody. How many dogs do you think are in the city of Ely? I have a number in my mind, and I guess I'm fairly conservative.
I wouldn't have no idea.
I'm going to toss out 1,000. And that's what I've heard easily. Well, if you multiply $1,000 times $10 a year, that's $10,000 right there. Assuming all the animals are spayed or neutered. If you assume half of them are not, all of a sudden it jumps to around $15,000.
I would say probably more than half are.
So I think we have a deeper problem here than just what are we going to do about putting animals down. I think we need to look at enforcing the licensing And that also would enforce the fact that there's probably a lot of dogs out there that do not have rabies shots, and that's all we check for.
Well, when they license them, when they come in, they're supposed to have them, and back to get them, but again.
Right, but if they're not licensed,
Exactly.
then we don't know that they have the rabies shots. And that's just one of the shots that they probably should all have. So I'm kind of in over my head here, but I think for Todd to do an adequate job as animal control, he should be the animal control officer, period. And that's the end of his responsibilities, in which case he could start checking up on how many of these dogs are actually licensed. And I remember as a child, dog catchers coming to the door. We have to go get the money to license the dog for this year. And he can't possibly do that if he's doing all these other duties. So just that was kind of an oblique thought, but if we're not enforcing the tags, you know, we're basically handcuffing ourselves for getting the money to pay for all this additional cost.
I have prosecuted a few people for failing to license their dogs if the city issues a citation. I'm sorry, the sheriff's department issues a citation. And I do believe, I know we've had a animal control officer, I'm not sure if Todd has been certified to where he can issue citations.
Possible, yeah.
Has he been certified that way?
Yeah.
So he can issue citations for owners that do not license their animals.
But that means they'll have to hire somebody to take Todd's place.
No,
We need to hear this, whatever you have to
No,
say.
I'm talking about for the extra
Oh,
fees.
yeah.
They use them.
I just have a quick question. Do they still chip the dogs that you...
We don't have the ability to, no. We don't have it.
I know we used to do it when I worked with them.
I've seen them shipping, but we don't have it. I don't know what's that like.
Well, the things that Todd has got all free time, he's our only animal control officer. Unless there's, I don't think the county.
No,
He's
that's
for the
what we're
entire
talking
county,
about.
so if we just think about Todd just sitting around and doing more to do.
Well, yeah, but Todd doesn't just sit down.
No, I know he doesn't. That's what I'm saying.
I saw him leave one day. Yeah.
This guy's got a whole county he's got to take care of. And it's difficult. So when it comes to money, we have to look into that. Otherwise, we're not responsible. So at least look into it. And, so that's, and I agree with Councilman Lee on that. Sometimes we might be getting in a little deeper until we actually look at what the cost is going to be. I mean, that's just common sense. A lot of you new guys were talking about that when you were campaigning. So it's, we can't just be spending money everywhere. And this is a legitimate request that everybody's asking about. And I think it's a great idea. But if we don't look at the cost, we might jump up and bite us in the butt. So that's the one.
I don't understand what the cost is. I guess I'm missing that. What increased cost?
Well, the increased time of, that's why I was asking. And the increased time of carrying the animal over. So you'd have the animal carried more often, the spade neutering.
Spade neutering
is paid for by
No, they can't put that spade
the only cost, the extra cost would be labor and 5 days of, at the most 5 days of food.
Okay, that's a cost too. But what I'm saying is, if the cost is a minimal cost, I think the scamper should know if it's going to cost us an extra $1,000.
Mayor, I don't think that neutering is part of the motion. I mean, the motion, on the agenda item is length the time to put the animals down, using volunteers to help out with adopting and posting of pictures. So what we're talking about.
Well, it all came up with when I just said.
I know, we got off track. We're not talking, that would have to be.
The volunteers are already there.
Yeah, that volunteers are already there. The only thing we're talking about is
The length, basically the length of time.
stretching it from 5 days to 10 days. The extra added cost could possibly be the food for 5 days. It would be the extra
I
cost.
was just inquiring.
And I think the city could absorb that. We're not talking much.
So is it $500? Is it $100? If we're going to make $100? I just wanted to go with it. Yeah, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So
No, we
if
don't
the
know.
city council will go ahead and make that what they want. I think it's a great idea.
How much do we spend now?
A lot of it's donated. Not donated, I shouldn't say that. It's on the price of food. Sometimes you find it cheap, sometimes you find it real expensive. It's just trying to purchase it quarterly.
Is it a minimal cost though, for food, do you spend much?
No, I didn't say this. No. I got what I budgeted.
I
wish I would look at it.
The city's not paying.
The thing is, I budgeted for what we
That's
had.
pretty awful.
Yeah, that would run into money.
Yeah.
What's that?
Stage tutoring thing, I'm thinking.
That's what I'm saying.
And I wasn't even prepared for that, I'm trying to think. Yeah. So that would have made it a lot more money if it was like
I
that.
guess it's just something.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we extend the animal control to 10 days from 3 to 5 to every animal has 10 days. That we utilize the volunteers to take the pets, and that we direct Mike to have Todd take pictures when he picks up the animals, like we talked about, and have an SD card available for the volunteers to pick up and put it on websites.
And a second.
And I will
White
second
Pine
that.
County Pet Policy.
Well, hold on, Carol, please. You have a second?
Second.
Is there anybody else that would like to chime in on this, Carol?
I was just saying the name of the groups, the White Pine County Pet Policy.
Okay.
Also, if you put out the word, maybe people would be willing to donate some of the food. You know, if you put out the
Okay,
word,
well,
there's a
those
lot
are
of
all
animal lovers in this
And did you want to come up and say something? But we can't hear you from back there.
You guys be on the,
Within the.
You have to come up.
so that we can get you on the record.
I know people are starting to shout out, and that's
Not much.
I'm Tammy Carlin. I just wanted to make sure that they were only allowed 2 pets in a, per.
It's 2 pets, and the adoption thing is 3.
That has nothing to do with this.
That's already.
Yeah, that's.
Is that really fair to the neighbors?
Well, we're not, that's not changing. It's still the same. You can have two animals or 2 dogs, whatever, and if you're, what is it called? Fostering, you can have 1 extra, and that is our ordinance. And that's up to 60 days. Otherwise, that's not changing. Okay. All right, then we'll have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good. All right, number 6, Councilman Watson, Councilman Hanson, Councilman Durbridge, discussion for possible action, consideration to remove City Clerk James Allworth, pursuant of Ely City Code 1-6A-4. I am going to open this via Denver Corral and the other. In case anybody wants to say anything, and I would like to have Jeanette, do you have the letter or Jennifer? I'd like to have that read into the minutes also, Jennifer. The letter.
Would you like that done right now?
Yeah.
Okay, this letter is dated June 27, 2013, from Robert Moore, CPA, Mayor Hickman. I have just learned that the city manager of Ely, Jim Allworth's position, is under review by the city council. I have no understanding of what the controversy may be regarding his tenure. I just hope that the city council deliberates long and hard before any actions are taken. During my many years as independent auditor of the city of Ely, I found Jim to be one of the best managers I've ever come across in government. His greatest gift was the ability to get the most out of his employees. He was one of those rare individuals who knew how to see not just a problem, but a solution. His solutions reduced costs and pushed the city to become a more innovative and forward-looking city. At the time my association with the city of Ely ended, he had helped turn the city into an extremely well-run, tightly functioning organization. In rural America, it is difficult to attract top-flight managerial talent at any price. The city has received high value at low cost from Jim Allworth, and I fear it will be difficult to attract his level of talent to the city. Sincerely, Robert E. Moore, CPA.
Thank you. Scott? Introduce yourself, one call, where we go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott Husbands in the law firm of Genola Husbands. I am here in a representative capacity tonight on behalf of City Clerk Jim Allworth, who could not be here due to a previously planned vacation. Mr. Allworth came to our office and asked me to address this council tonight on his behalf, seeing as how he's not here. So there are just a few issues I'd like to discuss with the council on Mr. Allworth's behalf. The first is just the concept of fairness. The agenda item itself says discussion for possible action consideration to remove City Clerk James Allworth pursuant to Ely City Code. From the concept of fairness, I don't know how this body can consider the removal of Mr. Allworth when Mr. Allworth is not here. As I said, it was a previously planned vacation. He put his vacation request in. It's not as if Mr. Allworth is trying to avoid this body in discussion of this item. I think it just merits consideration by the council that the council take action to table this until such time as he can be here. I think he can probably be available for the next city council meeting. The council can, of course, also go ahead and schedule a special meeting simply to consider this. And the fairness question, I think, goes not only to Mr. Allworth as an individual, but I think it goes to the members of the public who are here tonight and the members of the public who are not here tonight, such that this council can have a full discussion with Mr. Allworth about some of the council members' concerns, and Mr. Allworth can respond to those, and that the members of the public can at least listen, or Mr. Allworth can have a chance to speak to members of the public, since that would likely be addressed during that portion of the meeting. So the concept of fairness, and I think from the standpoint of a legal perspective, the due process, Mr. Allworth, I think we take a step back and look at the prejudice that this council would suffer if it was to table this agenda item and take it up at the time that Mr. Allworth would be here to discuss it. Let's weigh that prejudice against the prejudice that Mr. Allworth suffers if the council moves forward and removes him from his position tonight. What prejudice there is, I don't know if the council would suffer from letting it go for another 2 weeks. The prejudice that Mr. Allworth suffers is immeasurable. He loses his job, which is quite possibly the greatest prejudice he could possibly suffer as an employee. So I would ask the council to consider that. And at this point, I have one other point I'd like to make, but I'd just like the council to consider at least the fairness issue and the equities of proceeding in this manner when Mr. Allworth isn't even here to defend himself. So his simple request to me was that I appear here in limited capacity for this purposes of this meeting to just ask that the council go ahead and table the agenda item until such time as he can be here to properly defend himself.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
According to the city code, I'm sure you've read it.
I have.
In a way, to me, it understands that the city clerk works at the discretion of is appointed by the city council at the discretion of the city council. And it states that when the new city council is appointed, they have the right to hire their own city clerk. It's not a matter of what he has done wrong and what he hasn't done. It's what this city council, who they want to have the city clerk, who they feel best to run the city clerk. We don't have to say what he's done wrong and what he's right. It doesn't offer, and according to our city code, it doesn't offer any. That's taking the job, with what the rules are set for.
Just a clarification, the city clerk is actually appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council. So the city council doesn't get to come and say who they want as city clerk. It's the mayor that presents who he wants as city clerk, and then the city council votes on whoever the mayor wants. But that's how it works. It's appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council.
We vote approval or disapproval on mayor.
Yes, and then the mayor can come back with somebody else or however. But it's the mayor's appointment. It's not the city council's appointment. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, in response to that, I'd say, Councilman Durbridge, I think your recitation of the provision 1684 is correct. He does serve at the pleasure of this council and at the pleasure of the mayor. What I'm trying to impress on this body is that just from the standpoint of fairness, is it fair to remove him from his office when he isn't here to defend himself? And I think the resounding answer is no. It's not fair to Mr. Allworth. He's been a servant of the city for, I think, almost 13 years and has done an exceptional job. And it's not fair to these people who are sitting behind me, and it's not fair to the people who are in the city themselves that would just deserve a chance to hear the grounds for the removal and have Mr. Allworth have a chance to respond to those grounds.
We don't have to have, Scott has explained, we don't have to have grounds. And what you're trying to do is it would be a personnel session where we say the city clerk did this or did that. According to the city code, we don't have to have grounds. You're trying to get it to be terminated, but the contract is, for city code, is that he works at the pleasure of the mayor and the city council. It doesn't say anywhere in our city code that he has a right to serve beyond the next election. And that's his job description. So how can you add more into his job description that is in the city code?
Well, I'm not adding into the job description.
Well, you say when he doesn't have a chance to defend himself, that is not written in there. It's at the pleasure of the mayor or city council.
Yeah, and I'm not saying...
It could be Warren Buffett, if you want to say, and the city council could decide that he wanted somebody else to invest their money.
And that
would be the provisions that the city is run on. So you're asking to change the provisions, and that would be on ordinance, and we don't do that.
Well, I think that's not what I'm asking for. I'm not asking that the provision be changed. All I'm asking for is that you keep in mind that this individual is not here.
I can address that. We run our lives around the city council meeting. These meetings are set in stone most of the time, so he knew what it was. I'm not going to argue with whether he should be here or shouldn't be. He had the choice to be here or not. So that's, to me, is not a valid argument.
Well, I don't know that you have much of a choice. And we're talking about a non-refundable vacation that was incredibly expensive, so, it is what it is. I'm not trying to read language into this provision that isn't there. All I'm asking is that these city council members, including several of which are new, at least take into account the fairness of removing somebody from his office when he's not here. So I do have one additional point. If anybody else wants to speak to the fairness issue, I'll be happy to entertain any other questions.
You've insinuated that, by your previous language, that this would be of a disciplinary nature to defend himself. By those words, you're insinuating that we have something against him. And what Mr. Durbridge has pointed out is that may or may not enter into it whatsoever. It's our right to have that opportunity to select the mayor to nominate those with whom we would want to work. I think you've already tried to change the atmosphere of this discussion by the words which you're using.
I haven't tried to change the atmosphere in any regard. I think
then why did you use the word defend?
If there are concerns of individuals in this body of their ability or inability to work with Mr. Allworth as the city clerk, then air those concerns to him. Have him, give him a chance to sit down and say, I respect your concerns and I appreciate your concerns and I will work with you to resolve them. My point is that
we haven't already done that.
Have
some
you?
of us have already done that. Have I talked to him?
Has that been
I talked to him for an hour and a half.
But we go back, I mean, you're right, go back to
Mr. Chairman, wait a minute, let's hear what's going on. Go ahead.
Just for the public that's here, I just want to read the part that we're referring to, 1-6A-4, which is city policy. Its title is term removal. The term of office continues until the city election next following appointment, and until a successor is appointed and qualified, unless sooner removed by the mayor with the concurrence of a majority of the members of the city council, except removal may occur by vote of all the members of the city council. That is what the policy is. We're actually bound by that. It hinges on the election. This is the opportunity for us to take action. Not an opportunity, an obligation.
Actually, I need to clarify something because Mr. Westland did misspeak. He says it hinges on the election. There are actually two provisions there. One is hinges on the election, but that's after a successor is appointed and qualified. But the second option is for the unanimous vote of the city council, so that has nothing to do with an election. That's the two parts, just so that we're clear on that.
Well, there's just one more point from a legal perspective. Under the open meetings law, to the extent that this discussion is going to get into Mr. Allward's competence or anything in that regard, and I don't know how you can have a discussion on removing somebody without getting into his competence or his, I'll read it to you. It's in Nevada Revised Statute 241-003. He's required to have been given written notice. So I don't know if he was given that written notice, and Councilman Burbidge is shaking his head.
I talked to Jim for an hour and a half, and I moved that we relieve Jim Allworth of his duties working for the ED City.
And my question was whether he was given the written notice as required by Nevada Revised Statute 241.033.
And I can answer that. As far as I know, he was not given any notice. However, I don't know that we're talking about his competence based on that particular ordinance. So,
We're not relieving on ordinance, we're leaving it, if we vote that way, we're doing it according to city code. The city ordinance, which has been here for years and years, and I second Bruce's motion.
I'd all like to go on record saying I think this is a mistake. I think it's a personal vendetta. I don't see where he's done anything wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pete's sake.
For Pete's sake.
Call for it.
I will, when I get a chance, all right? Well, I said that, if they want to chime in on this, they can come up here and chime in on it. You say you want to come up? Got your hand up.
Mr. Allworth, please come to my. Allworth denied me access to my access to public record. He was in conflict of interest, in my opinion, when he has his own water business. He harassed me at the last election in 1911, and people here heard him. And I'm a darn fool, I let him cheat me out of my cookie as I was doing it. And he's done nothing wrong when he has violated the Freedom of Information Act. He harassed me at another election. He also told me the city was paying him as much as they did because they couldn't pay him as much as he made at the mine.
we have to be careful with the comments that you're making.
These are my opinions.
If you get into his competence, now we're getting into a section that
You
have
want
to
reasons to
provide.
dismiss him?
No, that's not what we're looking for.
Oh,
If we're
well.
going to get reasons to dismiss him, we have to provide him with the required notice by law. So you can't get into discussions like that here. Now, if you want, if this council wants to
Well, I
continue
wrote
this
letters to the editor and they wouldn't print them.
If you want to continue this and provide him notice so that the public can bring those issues, that's up to you. But we can't have people coming up and talking about Mr. Allworth's competence when he has not been provided the notice as is required by law.
Hey,
Even
I
though that
went to
doesn't
the
happen in a
city,
closed session.
county to sign a complaint against him and the deputy said, well,
And
as
once
long as
again,
it's not slander.
Alice, you can't talk about that here. Listen to me, you are violating the law if you continue.
Well, he violated the law.
There again, that is a violation of the law. Okay?
Well, throw me in jail.
I would have to direct you to ask Ms. Souza to sit down.
Throw me in jail then.
Anybody else that wants to say anything?
But don't talk about a person's competence to do his job because he hasn't been provided the
Oh,
proper
he
notice.
did a
in
real
regards to
good
that.
job.
All
He
right.
was very good.
This is,
Not denying me my freedom to access the public information.
and this was my point, is you can't have this discussion without getting into this competence issue. I mean, you all know the public meetings laws, you know what happens if you do something in derogation of public meetings law, so.
City council's not discussing that.
Well, we'll see. I just want to make it clear under this 16A4 that you all are proceeding under the second prong, which requires the unanimous vote, that this, I mean, he has not had a successor appointed, so I just want to make it clear for the record exactly what's going on here, that you guys are removing him without a successor, therefore requiring a unanimous vote. Is that correct, Mr. Briggs?
Yes. And I shouldn't say that they're removing him. That's what would be required if they choose to remove him.
Okay, Scott, you-
I think that's it.
Okay, I'm going to call for a roll call vote on this, Jennifer.
Yes.
Read the motion, please.
wondering if there are any other comments. I was wondering if there were any other comments anyone chose to make.
Oh, I got a chance. That's what we done.
Well, what I've got is Councilman Sutterstrom moved to relieve City Clerk Allworth of his duties. Is that correct? Is that complete?
Yes.
According to City Code.
Right, according to City Code.
And Councilman Derby seconded the motion.
Okay, and
Hi, my name is Bill Wolf, and as a member of the community, we expect good governance from our elected officials. Part of my expectation is if you're going to remove a person who, in my mind, seems to be doing a good job, why we as members of the community deserve to understand why a person is being removed at this level of authority. You guys certainly have the right to do this, it sounds like, but as representatives of the community, I would think that you owe the community, not just that certain constituency that may have voted for particular people, you owe the entire community an explanation of why you would remove somebody at this level of governance within the community. If he's doing a bad job, then identify it as a bad job. If he's not doing a bad job, then what is the reason he would be removed? At this point, it being the first action that the council is making, it looks like that it's in response to assertions that were made in the campaign and responded to in the campaign, and now the first action is to remove him. So it looks pretty darn petty if you guys are going to make this one of the first actions that you're going to do right after the election.
Well, look what they did to
all right, anybody else?
Marty when he was.
Study yelling from the gallery.
Mr. Mayor, just one more brief comment. I should have looked at my notes here because I had this written with a little star next to it. But in any event, just quickly, there is quite a great deal of discussion about transparency in politics these days. You can see it on CNN, you see it on Fox News, on MSNBC, and certainly some of the people that ran in this campaign and won spoke about transparency. So I guess the rhetorical question I would ask on Mr. Allworth's behalf, for the benefit of this body and for the benefit of the public here today, is what is transparent about removing somebody and then saying, well, we don't have to say why we're removing him, we're just going to go ahead and remove him. I think Mr. Wolf's comment hits that right on the head, so he reminded me that I did want to raise that transparency issue. So.
Brett Marks, just a member of the community. I don't know if it's relevant or not, but this has been discussed for months on a public forum by members of this council. I've watched it unfold, knew this was going to happen. And I just find it unfair that I didn't vote for any of you. I'll be right up front with you, just because I knew you were going to do this. You may have other changes that are good, but this isn't one of them. Like I said, it's been discussed on a forum. That don't look right to me. But on Jim's behalf, I've been a firefighter with him for 20-something years, and I have trusted that man with my life, and I would any day for this week right now. So I think it's wrong to not give him a chance. And that's it. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, get a frog off and a roll call vote.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, does everybody understand it has to be a unanimous vote the way it's been done? Okay.
Councilman Sutterstrom.
Aye.
Councilman Durbidge.
Aye.
Councilman Lee.
Aye.
Councilman Westland.
Aye.
Councilman Hanson.
Aye.
Vote unanimous, Mayor.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll move on to number 6. Councilman Durbin. Discussion possible action. Formulation of a job description for the position of city clerk in addition to items innumerous to City of Ely Code 1-6A-5.
Well, one of the things on there would be on 1-6-8, it says, degree in business or related field with 5 years experience in management or government accounting. I think that, I don't like that one. I don't think you need 5 years for government accounting.
Okay, what do you suggest?
I just think we have, if they have some accounting experience, I don't see, I think if we put a specific year on it, it would limit the amount of people applying. We can, by looking at over the applicants, we can see whether we feel we have enough.
Anybody else?
I agree. We can screen the applicants. We will screen the applicants.
I think we could put it as part of the salary or something along that line. I see those kind of ads all the time. That depending on experience, and then that would open it up to somebody that says, well, I have some experience. You can have other people that have years of experience, and then you pay them accordingly or make it a negotiating item.
Keep in mind that 1-6A-6 that talks about that Mr. Derby's brought up, it's desired minimum qualifications. I don't know if that's mandatory minimum qualifications.
So yeah, that's an out there. It wouldn't require to do that much.
And it goes on to say, or any combination of training and or experience that could likely provide the desired knowledge and abilities.
It's pretty broad.
It is.
Bill, any other thoughts on this?
So when you're reading that thing, they don't even have to be a graduate or college? They do not.
BA degree.
According to the ordinance here, that section A, it talks about graduate from college with a degree in business or related field and 5 years of experience in management or any combination of training and or experience that could likely provide the desired knowledge and abilities. So that gives you the opportunity to really consider anybody.
So to change those, we have to change the ordinance?
We would. If you wanted to change those desired minimum qualifications, because that is in an ordinance format, you would have to go through the ordinance process to change it.
So we can just leave it the way it is and then judge the applicants on what we want. So I guess that would be new then, if it's not in the ordinance form. Right?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean.
Well, I mean, so
I thought you wanted to change the job and use the job description as to what's going to be required.
we can't change it, I just asked you that question, you can't change it without changing the ordinance.
You can have a job description that is still consistent with the work.
We have $5 million focused on the conflict.
Well, okay, going that way, then we're not gonna change it. I think we should have a college, they should have a college degree in business or accounting.
Business accounting or public administration. When I was doing my MBA program, we took extensive courses in fund accounting, which is no fun, but it's not all that much different from regular accounting. And I'm sure anybody could pick it up if they have the relevant background education for accounting. But I would add that proviso.
Maybe something to be tabled and look at exactly what we want.
Well, that's going to be kind of difficult. Because it comes down to the county, and the next agenda item is the Evertime enforcement.
Okay, that's good. Then what do you want to do there?
Well, I like Sam's description, and what else do we want to put in that's not in our, anything else we want to add that's not in our desired
I would put Masters of Public Administration and Master of Business Administration preferred, but will accept, somebody with a bachelor's degree in either of those two fields, or a related field, or a combination of related education and experience. But I think, according to the code, though, at a minimum, they should have a 4-year degree.
Obviously, the code needs to be changed. That seems to me anyway to be obvious. Kevin, is it appropriate to advertise a position with a notification that this is the current code, the current job description, job requirements, that those we're in the process of changing that now?
Don't know that you get very many people apply if you do it that way. If you just follow the wording in the code, that the desired minimum qualifications is this, and phrase it exactly like that. Graduate from college with a degree in business or related field and 5 years of experience in management or government accounting, or any combination of training and or experience that could likely provide the desired knowledge and abilities.